Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Women to Watch here on WWDB Talk 860 and WomenToWatch.net. I am, again, very excited and feeling very blessed to be broadcasting live from Austin, Texas, in a studio at EBW2020. And I'm with Ingrid Vanderveldt, founder and chairman and CEO at Vanderveldt Global Investments and EBW2020. So just before the break, we were talking a little bit about things that have shaped and helped you along the way to start and sell multiple businesses, and your spirituality, which is a huge part of who you are and what allows you to get through every day. Mm-hmm. And I thought we would start the second half with the story about Belle and your grand idea that you just decided to take to the CEO of Belle. Is that right? Or was
it's actually the president
of Belle.
But Michael was involved too. He was great.
Yeah. This is, this kind of was catapulted you to a whole new level. For sure. And so I'm just going to let you tell the story of how where the idea came from. Where were you when that idea popped into your head? And then what allowed you to go in and make this happen at Belle?
Well, again, thank you for asking, because it's fun to look back on it, because again, it really is just this divinely guided thing. I'll put it that way. Again, as we were saying, you can't architect this kind of stuff. So I was back in 2010 or 2011. I was literally on a dirt road in Dallas, Texas, and I had, I was driving to meditate. And that was one of the things too, that as a daily meditator, but I always say my greatest gift, but also my biggest vice, is complete lack of patience. So I made an agreement with God. I said, will you please talk to me when I have a moment? I promise to listen.
Is it safe to drive and meditate?
I don't know that I can sit there and just, And I think that's important to acknowledge, because for years I was like, how do people meditate? How do they hear? How do they do yoga? Whatever. And so, I made this agreement, and I was able to really open up and hear in sometimes very unusual places. So this being one of them. So I was driving on dirt road in Dallas, Texas, and I had asked the question, where I had made the day before that authentic commitment to 100% go into service. And it was like the most exciting moment and the scariest moment to be driving that car, because I was about to ask the question, what do you need? What do you need me to do? What am I called to do? Because I could have been asked to go and, as I mentioned earlier, service women in the jungles of Uganda, go do that. Or I could be asked to do what we get to do today, which is empowering 1 billion women by 2020, which includes that. And that was what I heard very, very clearly. And I literally dropped a bunch of 4-letter words screaming like, oh my gosh, this is the craziest idea ever. Why me? And then I really started panicking. Like, what does this mean? How do I do this? This is crazy. The long story short of that was that when I took the deep breath, I reminded myself, Ivy, you made the commitment. And so now that path's going to be shown. I don't know what it looks like, but it's going to be shown. So instead of thinking it's impossible, and I did a TEDx talk on this, but how do you make the impossible possible? And so that was the question I began to ask was, well, how does one person create these global movements? There are people who've done it before. How does that happen? And so for me, instantaneously, once I opened up to that, it became very clear. My life to that point had been spent as a business person running tech companies, as a media person hosting CNBC's show. So I knew media was going to be very important. Here we are today. Mm-hmm. And then policy initiatives. I was very active in policy, and I knew that we needed to have political and policy involvement, I'll put it that way. So from there in the Belle call, I knew I needed the only way that we were going to reach 1 billion women in this short period of time was absolutely going to happen through technology. And I realized I needed a global technology partner to make that happen. So the next sort of 5 scariest days of my life were when I had made the call to who was the president of Belle at the time, Steve Felice. And I arranged for a meeting. He accepted. I said, I have a very big idea, and I'd like 15 minutes of your time. And
how did you get the call? Did you have a relationship with him prior to?
I actually had met him, and so I had met him down, and I had been invited to go to a Belle event that I actually turned down. So I turned the event down, which was interesting because at the time, I said to the person, I was so busy doing what I was involved in then, and I said, Dell doesn't get entrepreneurs, they don't get women, and I don't know what the investment of my time doing this is going to mean. They're an enterprise company. And this girlfriend of mine said, no, Ivy, you really need to come. You need to see what Dell's trying to do. And Dell was trying to create opportunities to connect with women around the globe.
Okay.
So I went there, I met the president of the company, and that's where we created the friendship. So I spent a little bit of time with him there. But when he accepted the meeting, those were very scary days for me leading up to that, because I really did not know what I was going to say to him. I didn't know what I was asking. I didn't know if I was asking for a job. I didn't know if I was just going to admit this idea that people said, don't tell anybody empowering 1 billion women by 2020. It sounds insane. They'll think you're crazy. Don't say that. So I didn't know what I was going to ask. And then I just prayed on it, and I realized that the only thing that I could do was be completely authentic in my communication with him, as crazy as it might sound. If I didn't do that, then I would never have a win-win relationship anyway. I needed to be authentic and transparent. So when I went in to meet with him, I shared what the idea was. But where I knew there was potentially a huge business opportunity was that if we're doing it through technology, and if at the time it was, let's get mobile devices into the hands of these women around the world, if we could do that, and even if I really screwed this up, if I kind of got partways down the path, but these women were all on Dell devices, that could be pretty big business for the company. And he saw that too, instantly saw that. So literally in that meeting, we did a handshake deal. We came up with this idea of calling it the Entrepreneur in Residence. We didn't even know what it meant. We just said we're going to figure it out. And that's what happened.
That's okay. That's how a lot of things start, right?
It was amazing. And I was supposed to be there for, it was like 3 months. Yeah, 3 months and then 6 months. And I ended up being there for 3 years. And it grew into me overseeing entrepreneurship initiatives globally for the company and running an unbelievable business for Dell.
Yeah. Tell me how you came up with the number 1 billion and by 2020. That idea, was that?
Just literally, it was just through meditation.
Okay.
It was clear as day.
Wow.
And it wasn't, and people listening to this are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, this girl sounds just, out there. And that's okay.
Because you've proven that, everything that you have done has proven that by listening and really hearing what your next step should be, that it's working, because it is.
Walking forward in faith is a very powerful thing.
Yes.
It's really amazing what comes around.
Yeah.
What attracts. And like I said, not every day is easy. We have some very challenging days, because you can't do something like this. And again, we're not here to have just a concept. We're here to achieve the goal. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of work in front of us, mm-hmm. and there are amazing people who, I say about every single person on this team, there's not a single person on this team that couldn't be out running their own business very successfully, doing their own thing as their own CEO. And every single team member has made the commitment that together we really want to see this changing of the ratio for women and girls around the globe. And to show up into an environment like that every single day is just absolutely amazing. But that doesn't mean that, we have very strong opinions at times, and you need that. Mm-hmm. You need that to respectfully challenge and provide that constructive criticism so that we can continue to weave and navigate to move towards this goal.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about why women. I think everyone in this room has in their mind why the world would be better with more women in charge. When you said we must view sustainability through the eyes of women, why women? I want to know what you envision the world to be when we have more women leading.
I could talk all day about that.
That's a big loaded question.
Because I always say too, and I'm so appreciative and really love, and I say that to the guys, I love working with the amazing men that we get to work with. And women we won't elevate to our fullest potential as leaders and entrepreneurs if we're not doing it in collaboration with the guys. But there are so many qualities about women that really bring other women together. We look at, whereas guys, what I love working with the guys, they're, especially in business, they, again, making money in large part, and I'm grossly overgeneralizing here, but the facts will show, that it's really a competition, and it's they think in a linear fashion. Women, on the other hand, making money for some of us is, a competition and fun, but really in large part is because we want to make an impact.
Right.
And the way that we look at things is not in this linear fashion, but let's look at the whole picture. And how can we bring everybody together and collaborate to create a better whole? So when you bring that into a structure that's been historically men, MIT did a study and they say when you mix the teams at the executive level, you get 41% higher ROI. Women, when they're making money, whether they're trying to rub two pennies together or they've got millions of dollars to spend, we reinvest 90% of what we make back into our families, our communities, and ultimately the world. So if you really want to create a global sustainable future where we're all inspired to thrive and grow, it really is the women who are doing that. And so what inspires all of us every day at EBW and what gets us out of bed and we think about in the middle of the night is we only have a few years to get where we're going, and the faster and further that we can go, the faster and further our world's going to evolve to that place that we all want to see by enabling women to have the resources and the support and the networks that they need to reach their fullest potential.
One of the things I think about when I look at someone like you that really has their hands in so many different areas, you have relationships all around the world, there's organizations that you serve outside of EBW 2020. I want to know how you manage the overwhelm, just the day-to-day influx of information and requests and things that need to be done. How do you manage that?
Well, we don't. I'll just say it right now. We try.
Maybe, you know what? It's probably the meditation. I guess it's the meditation and your faith.
I think there are some things that, I heard a phrase at Belle because I can't, and it's now happened for us here at EBW that I had 3 EAs and 3 emails and we could not handle all the volume of requests of things that were coming through. And I was feeling so bad because it's not me, it's what I was representing. And sort of finally at Belle, there was a person that was opening these opportunities and I understood it. If I was on the outside, I'd want in too. And a colleague of mine at Belle said, you know what, Ivy? Sometimes you just have to say you're in email bankruptcy. And being a finance person, I was like, okay. I mean, not supposed to say not okay, but okay, I get it. And that really, I think the combination of that, again, staying very transparent and authentic so that people know we are committed to this. We will put every available resource. I will give every moment of my time that I have, but there are a lot of things that I'm not going to be able to do. And that concept, especially for women about work-life balance, when I finally got in my own head that it's okay that I actually don't have balance, I'm either all in or I'm asleep. And that's just sort of how I roll, and that's okay. There's a reason that I was asked to channel the
all in or
tears,
asleep. Yeah.
But we try our best, and again, the team does such a great job too. I thank God for them every day because again, I don't stop, and I get that that's part of it's a gift and it's a vice. But I have to recognize too, we work with families, we work with parents, we work with people who have many more important things going on than EBW. And it takes a strong personality to be able to say, we can't do this, or this isn't the right thing. We really need to go that path. And I have to step aside and let that happen. And that means that we're not going to get everything done that I'd like to see or that they'd like to see. But that's part of moving forward as a team towards the same vision that is this big.
Yeah.
Because there's no question for us that we will get there. And that's one thing that they all know. They have my commitment that, God bless. It might be a tornado behind me, which is where I need really great people around. But we're going to get across that finish line. We'll reach those billion women.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps when you are selective the way you are to bring in the caliber of men and women that you do. That really just helps things flow the way they should. I want the listeners to know that you have been chosen by Oprah Winfrey to be a part of her Super Soul 100. That's a big deal. That is a really big deal. So
Definitely team effort.
I mean,
sure.
come on, she's
amazing,
Who doesn't
right?
know her? So to
Oh
be
my
connected
gosh.
to her is going to open up all kinds of wonderful opportunities and more doors.
Yes,
One
thank
of her favorite things that she has said, and I love the way she does this interview. She'll say, we believe things and we think things and we feel things, but here's something I know for sure. So can you tell me something that you know for sure, aside from your spiritual belief, your faith? Is there something you can tell all of us that you really know for sure, that you have learned from your experience?
Gosh, nobody's ever asked me that, and that's really a tough one, because I think what I would say I know for sure is that I don't know for sure. I don't have those answers, but that if I don't at least take that next step forward and apply something that I remind myself, actually, Kirsten, that you and Joe Eisenhart and I talked about, how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. And, so what I know for sure is that if you put yourself out there truly in faith, work to acknowledge ego has its role, do what you're called to do, that while it can be so scary and you don't have all those answers, the resources will show up. If you're open to that, they will show up. And it's our job to almost sometimes just get out of our own way. And that's something I tell myself every day. Just get out of your own way.
Yeah, so true. And out of your own head.
Out of your own, oh
Sometimes.
gosh, that's for sure.
Yeah, which brings me to, I'm going to jump ahead for a second. I met a very interesting man. His name is Kapil Gupta. Do you have you heard that name? He's very interesting, and he works with celebrities and executives and high caliber athletes.
Oh, fun.
His belief, I just wanted your take on this. He believes that sometimes the mind is becoming the master over what is our spirit.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So we talk a lot about mindfulness in today's world and in the culture. And he said, we really don't need to be mindful. We need to be mindless. We need to get out of our own minds where all of these messages are coming. What do you, as someone who meditates, I guess your intuition really is kind of listening to the spirit, the soul, whatever we want to say is not the mind or the body. So what do you think about his statement that we need to be more mindless and not mindful?
Yeah, I love that, and it's such a great point, because I think where I find it, a challenge, but also an opportunity, I think, for all of us is, as I said, earlier, I feel like we're all spiritual beings living this human existence, and I talk about sort of the meditation, sort of spirit side, managing that with the ego side of things. And there really is space for the ego. Like, you can't do these kinds of things if you don't let your ego have space to thrive in some ways too. It's almost this regular daily balance of, so my ego is the thing that can you're thinking through things, or the things that can get in the way of where you're being called to go. And at the same time, to even have that belief that, okay, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this, how we're going to reach 1 billion women, but we're getting there. That's an ego thing. There's a big dose of spirit in that, but that's an ego thing too. And so I think just acknowledging that and being aware that it is this delicate balance, and letting your mindlessness override the ego side of it. More of this, less of this, and that's when I dial that in, which doesn't happen all the time, but that's where things just really start doing that karmic gel, if you will. And you're like, oh, of course that just happened, because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's a good goal to have every day when you wake up, to try to be that way. And some days we do it really well, and other days we don't.
Not so good.
Yeah. This is not a very creative question, but I'm just curious. I would love for you to tell me your typical day. I want to know a typical day in the life of Ingrid. You get up in the morning, like we all do, and what happens?
Yeah, I'm like, what does happen? That's
And perhaps you have no
Who
idea,
knows?
and you're just, and actually, there's probably not a typical day. I mean,
yeah. I had Lauren's here. I'm like, what's a typical day? No, I would just say, the getting up.
Here's a better way for me to say this. Is there something that you do the same every day that kind of keeps you grounded? Or do you really just,
I actually, I have this thing, I did this a few years ago, and I created something called Daily Guiding Principles, and I walk around with it. It literally is 3 pages of, especially in those moments where I'm feeling utter fear and confusion, I read this, and it might not be what you think, and when I say when you think, just what I would have thought before I made this thing up, but it was, what are the things that really, really matter to me? And so on there, it literally says things like, did I tell Glenn, my amazing, wonderful, salt of the earth husband, that I love him? Did I tell my family that I love them? Did I tell my team how much I appreciate them? And that one's really important because, again, I know I drive hard on everything. And even just saying thank you is so important. And I find myself so often, I haven't said it enough. So it's things like that. Did I take care of my skin? I'm not doing a good job of that right now. Like, I just got my hair done for the first time in 2 years. I hadn't taken time to do that. Wow. Did I meditate? That's something I do every day. Did I work out? I like to eat and drink a lot. So I'm Dutch. It's what it is. I like to be celebratory.
That. Sure.
So I have to work out. It helps me stay on top of my energy, but I want to look good. And so I make a point of working out 5 or 6 days a week. But then the way that I go into the day is I do map out what's happening through the day, and I do look at what are our goals for, I have everything broken out into what do I need to do this month, what do I need to accomplish this week, and what am I going to accomplish today? And then as we're like a week and a half from the end of the month, and there are things that I still want to accomplish this month that are pretty significant goals. And when it comes this close to the end of the month, I start honing in on that. But there are things like I was on the phone this morning with, I'll just say a royal princess. She's amazing. You'll get to know her. I won't say who it is because she'll be involved with us. But they were
You can't announce it on the show?
I can't
break the story?
Not yet.
She said yes.
Yes?
Yeah, she said yes to what
Okay.
you offered.
Right, okay. Global ambassador.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we make a...
Yes, okay. So this is really amazing. Okay, so there is this amazing princess out of Saudi Arabia. So Her Royal Highness, Princess Basma bin Saud. So she is coming out of Saudi Arabia and really wants to shine a light on the power and possibility of women out of that region. Not just Saudi Arabia, but out of that region. And so we were all together with her just last week in Los Angeles. She's in the country for a month. And she's agreed to sign on to be the chair of our 22 global ambassadors. So we have women from around the world who are the voices and visionaries of their communities that come and collaborate with EBW, who are amazing women in their own right. Mm-hmm. And so she now will be the chair of that. Which
that's congratulations.
Thank you. That's great. We're talking about some other things with her, but so she asked, this morning, could I fly out and we need to spend a few hours together. So that is often what will happen. So I get a request like that where, I no longer say, we used to say money is our most valuable asset years ago. No. And then I said time is our most valuable asset. It's not that. It's management of energy. Because literally an hour of time for me, for all of us, but that's where I don't ever know quite what the day is going to be like or quite what the week's going to be like, because when things like that come up, the only answer is, of course I'll be there.
Yes, right. But listen, we're out of time. That's it. We have to wrap up. I thank you so much for allowing me to come here to you and to have you share your story with my listeners. I'm so honored and appreciative.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We all do. Thank you.
And thank you to our audience.